Hello denizens of YouTube. This is Nick Dorn, aka Danger Hawkins, and today we are going to be talking about something called Reanimator decks, because I just got this, and it makes me very excited. This is the Graveborn Premium Deck Series deck, and it is just astounding how awesome this deck is, to be completely honest. It's one of the better pre-made decks out there. Actually, pretty much all the Premium Deck Series decks are very excellent pre-made decks, or at least above the standard. Most pre-made decks are usually pretty crappy, which is fine because usually I buy the pre-made deck, take the cards out of the pre-made deck, and use them in other decks that are more relevant to what I do. However, and that is the reason why I bought this deck. Now, this is, I guess, kind of an unboxing video, except that I'm going to be using this to talk about Reanimator decks and introduce some of you newer people to the concept of Reanimator. See, now Reanimator, it actually says it right here. Call forth the dead. That's essentially what Reanimator decks do. Now that we've tossed that aside, oh, and by the way, the other reason I like this is got one of the sweetest spin down dice ever. Spin down life counters, man. Gotta have some style and substance. And this does. Love that dice. Anyway, let's talk about some of the awesome, magical, magnificent, glorious cards that are in here. Because there are quite a few. And why they're awesome and why they work in this deck. So, first we're going to be prying out some of the cards that are on the opening, I guess the fan in the front. And let's talk about some of these cards. First of which, let's talk about, but before we do that, I guess, the concept of the Reanimator deck. It's a very important concept, and thus I will touch upon it here. Now, the idea of Reanimator decks is to take giant, hard-to-cast cards like this, take a different card, like this, Zombie Infestation, use it, boom, 2-drop, take this guy, who's an 8-drop, and this bad boy that is a 6-drop, both of which would be very difficult to get out normally. Take them both, slam them in the graveyard. Now, most of you who have not played very much Magic, or have never played against or with a Reanimator deck, are now going, "Oh my gosh, why would you do that? You just you just discarded 2 big creatures. Why? Here's why. The card that gave the deck its name, Reanimate. Cards like this essentially this is a 1-drop. Let's say at the very beginning of the game, let's say in turn 2, Zombie Infestation, I drop Croesus the Purger and Sphinx of the Steel Wind, boom, into the graveyard. Turn 3, still have all 20 life, Reanimate. Put target creature from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. You lose life equal to its converted mana cost. So basically, I take this for 1, bam, Sphinx of the Steel Wind, 8. I'm now at 12 life. However, on turn 3, I now have an 8-drop that is a 6/6 flying, first strike, vigilance, lifelink, and protection from red and green on the battlefield. So red and green can't hurt it. It hits first, it doesn't tap, it gives me more life every time it hits, no matter what it hits, and it is flying. And that's on turn 3. Normally you don't see this card until turn 8 if you're lucky. And if you made a really good 3-color deck for it, or you have like the proper ramping for it. That is just magnificent. So efficient. I love efficiency. I mean, I'm stammering because it's just such a great concept. And I was skeptical about Reanimator decks at first. And then I was running out of ideas because I normally play Mill, which is a completely different basket of worms that I'm going to get into later. Yeah, I just mixed my trite expressions there. Enjoy that. So let's see what else we've got in here. Oh, man. Oh, goodness. So we've got like a how to play and a strategy guide. See, it even gives you a strategy guide on how to do this. Now, I recommend, these things generally go pretty fast when they're on Amazon. Because when I, seriously, a week ago, when I got this off of Amazon, it was about $65. And there were 20 of them in stock from the place I got it from. I checked back today, there is exactly one left, and it is now $70. So if you see a bunch of these pop up on the internet, snap them up quickly. See, so we've got like some other cards in here. Most of these are big cards. I'll put them over. Here's what I'll do. Boom. Some of these aren't though. A lot of these are built for discard. Discard is what fuels these decks because you need to get cards out of your hand and onto the battlefield. And into the graveyard, then out into the battlefield. So you gotta, but the trick is not to have too much discard. The other trick is removal can still hurt you, and counter spells. And blue has a plethora of that. So blue is kind of like Reanimator hate, blue control, unless you get the right cards for it. Oh, by the way, this is an all-foil deck, which is another reason why I love it, because all of the cards are foils, except for the rares, like these bad boys up. Oh, no, these are foils as well. That's surprising. Yeah, they're all foils, so that's great too. Mind you, they're also fairly easy to get a hold of because you can just buy the entire deck and get all of them. So let's talk about some of the other cards in this deck, and then I'll talk about my other Reanimator deck, the one that I already have built. And this is, the reason I got into Reanimator decks, I was out of mill ideas, and this guy decided that we had just got done doing a huge trade for like not 50 cards, but like $75 worth of cards, which is quite a bit. It's one of the biggest trades, to this day, the biggest trade I've ever done. So then later on, I traded another one of those cards that he had traded me back to him for the skeleton of a Reanimator deck. Skeleton pun. Anyways, yeah. So that was what got me started on it. I looked it up online. I was like, Reanimator decks. I want to know more about this. And then when I figured out what Reanimator decks actually did, I was like, mind blown. I'd never thought of it. And believe me, it is a glorious concept. It's so simplistic. You simply discard a card, play a different card, get big card, battlefield cheap. Boom. Bang, bang, boom. And there are a lot of different cards that can do this. And it is just I can't give enough exuberance about this subject of how awesome it is. Now there's a lot of good cards in here. Good targets, as I prefer to call them, and as most people call them. Good targets for this kind of stuff. Now, one of them is obviously Sphinx of the Steel Wind. Now these are the two keys usually. Utility, survivability, and size. You want something that's big. This is big. This is one of the biggest flyers. It's big, has utility, because it's got lifelink, first strike, and vigilance, which makes it a defensive and offensive powerhouse. And it has flying, too, which is ridiculous. And it has survivability because two of the big destruction colors, particularly against flying, red and green, this is immune to those. Boom. Game over. Game over. Another good card, Avatar of Woe. This is a good target as well, but this also can be useful in a different way. First of all, it has Fear. The ability name has changed, however. Now it's Intimidate. Basically what that means is anything that isn't a black creature or an artifact creature cannot block this. So only black creatures and artifact creatures can block it. And that doesn't mean, when I mean black, I don't mean just black, like this, like mono black. If it has a black mana symbol, it is considered a black creature. So this could block it. But the reason I like this is because if there are 10 or more creature cards total in all graveyards, so this is like, I could put this in my mill deck and be completely fine with it because I will have 10 cards, I can have 10 creature cards in someone's graveyard in like 3 turns. In which case this 6-drop now turns into a 2-drop, which is glorious. 2-drop. A 2-drop that is a 6/5, and its other ability is you tap it and you destroy target creature and it can't be regened. Which kills, Golgari decks hate this guy. Because he'll just be, oh, you have regenerate? No you don't. Nice try though, you're dead. Gone. Poof. See you in the nether realm, man. Sends them all to Hades. Great card. Good utility. Survivability is a bit meh, but still good utility. So that kind of supersedes that. Plus, honestly, you don't even need to reanimate it. That's the beauty part. You can just drop it after discarding a bunch of stuff. Croesus the Purger is a good one. Flying, whenever Croesus the Purger deals combat damage to a player, I can pay 3 mana. If you do, choose a color, and that player reveals his or her hand and discards all cards of that color. Good against mono decks, which are very popular now due to Theros and the Devotion mechanic. So you can see right now, a lot of these cards in this deck, this is just a great deck all around. There's some other stuff in here. I won't get into too many specifics, and there are other good cards, but they're also in my other Reanimator deck. Which brings me into another subject, sleeves. Sleeves. So this is my other Reanimator deck. I call it the Army of Erebos. Why? Because Erebos is one of my key parts of this strategy. Now, these are just some El Cheapo Ultra Pro card sleeves, but you should really think about investing in some card sleeves. They're very good for protecting your mythic rares. And just, good for protecting really good decks. Like, a lot of the times for the group of people I used to play with, sleeving a deck is like a big deal because there aren't very many card shops where I used to play. So if you got a set of sleeves, you wanted to use it on the best possible deck because you couldn't just go and buy another set of card sleeves. So these are this is usually is a big deal when you sleeve a deck. It means you're saving it. It's now officially locked in as one of your top decks. And this is in construction still because you were never not constructing a deck. And this is what I run here. Erebos, God of the Dead. Indestructible. He's an enchantment creature, which is one of the new Theros things. He came out with the Theros set. I was so happy when I pulled him. As long as your devotion to black is less than 5, Erebos isn't a creature, which means black mana symbols, including his. So, if your opponents can't gain life, that is the key point here. Most of my friends in the group I used to play with use life gain. And life gain is still a very popular strategy. Why? Because you're gaining more life. I mean, come on, who doesn't want that? I can understand it. I have life gain decks that I've built before very successfully. So that's just one thing. And he also gives you card draw because if you pay 2 life, boom, draw a card. Oh, you also have to tap 2 mana. But yeah. So he gives you card draw and he's a life gain hater because nobody gains life. It's like, okay, you know what? Stop this madness. No more life gain. And that's when you bring out your artillery creatures and you start pounding the crap out of the other player. And they can't stop you, hopefully. Yeah, so that's part of my Reanimator deck. But honestly, there really isn't that much to say after that. I mean, I have a board wipe in here, Mutilate. All creatures get -1/-1 until end of turn for each swamp you control. And since this is a mono black deck, there's tons of swamps in here. So it's kind of like, yeah, 8 swamps, boom, kill everything with a 4-drop. People hate me for that. It's so much fun. Yeah, I got a few enchantments in here to get the devotion up for Erebos, because he is a good card. He's a 4-drop. It's pretty magnificent. Some cards I'm already going to get rid of. Abhorrent Overlord. I won't go into that now. He's going to possibly be in a different deck. But yeah, so you get the idea, though. You have cards like Putrid Imp, discard a card, Putrid Imp gains flying until end of turn. You just keep discarding cards and then drawing them out. And you have to be careful, though, because against a mill deck, if they're fast enough, they will destroy you. And it would be hilarious for them, not for you, though. Because I beat one Reanimator deck. And it was kind of poorly constructed because they had way too much discard. Can't have that much discard. Otherwise, you end up burning yourself down. Then all I have to do is drop a couple really big mill cards and kill you. Very simple. Very easy to do. So that's Reanimator decks in a nutshell. If you want more detail on that, you can always email me. My email is cossak11@ymail.com. You can also follow me on Twitter, which is at symbol COSSAK11. It's my former gamer tag, so I just use it for most of that stuff. Other than that, subscribe if you like this video and you want to see more. Like the video, that'd be great, because then more people can see my videos. I'd appreciate that. Now, this is a bit for more the semi-advanced players, more intermediate players who don't really know about this deck because it's not really in vogue right now, because it's not it's not really a good standard deck right now because there isn't really anything to work with this. But a lot of you legacy players out there know what I'm talking about, and modern masters will probably know about this as well. For the rest of you, this was a bit advanced. I haven't even gotten into deck building yet. I will in a video very soon. I will start the basics of deck building, but I wanted to get a video out for some of the more advanced players first. So other than that, peace out.